Welcome to the first episode of Hybrid Fitness Report. My name's Paul Reynolds.
I'm Jude.
We've been looking forward to this for a while, finally getting it going, and we're going to kick off with some event reviews. We went to the Hyrox World Championships in Chicago in June, and since then I think Jude had about 30 minutes off for an off-season, and I had a bit longer, and a month or two. And so we'll get into a little bit about the World Championships. We're going to talk about a couple of other events he's been in since then. We'll have a little look at a couple of industry updates that have happened in the last 2-3 months, which are relevant for people generally, I think, who are competing in this space or training in this space. And then we'll get into our week in workouts and a little bit about next week's workout and a little bit about nutrition, hopefully, too. So let's get things kicked off and talk briefly. It's been a little while ago now. It feels like ancient history. But the Hyrox World Championships in Chicago back in June, I was there with you, and mostly the event itself I thought was pretty great. The Navy Pier was a great place to compete. I thought the venue itself was excellent. I thought the management of it was great. So we had a really enjoyable time at the event. I was a little bit confused as a spectator as to why the age group World Championships seemed to compete in a different space, different area to the Elite 15, to the top 15 in the world, regardless of age group. So just very quickly, what's the distinction between how the Elite 15 compete and how you and everyone else competes?
Yeah, so basically it was raced on the same track, so in the same location. All that happens was when the Elite 15 race, they race on something called the grid, which is just a more condensed version of what the rest of us race on. So, for example, our farmers carries would go up and down the lane, whereas their farmers carries were in one section where they'd go up and down the same lane that they would sled push on or sled pull on, burpee on, basically for spectatorship. So everyone would, all the Elite 15 can compete here, where the rest of us would compete in a much bigger space as well, just because, like I said, easier viewing with the Elite 15.
Great. So we had the Elite 15 competing in their condensed space that you call the grid. Then the age group, starting with your age group in 16 to 24 on the normal larger space that anyone who's ever competed in Hyrox, it was that kind of a size, right? So it varies by venue, but everyone basically doing the same thing. How did that go for you?
Not to plan. I went in seeded 6th in the world in my age group.
Which means you had the 6th best qualifying time in the year.
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
So
coming in. Right.
Amongst everyone in my age, I recorded a personal best of 59 minutes and 30 seconds in the pro division, which again we'll go into later, but it just means essentially with heavier weights than the open division. So went in there with a 59:30, like I said, 6th in the world. Came out ultimately in 19th place in the world in my age group, so definitely not what I was hoping for. Leading up to it, my prep I felt was good. On average, nothing crazy. I didn't feel amazing, but I didn't feel bad. I felt like I was ready. But ultimately, on the day, it wasn't meant to be. I hadn't had a bad race leading up to that point before, so it was just unfortunate that my first bad Hyrox race was on that day, because objectively, all my numbers...
The numbers are stacked up, but mentioning no names, you weren't the only one who is in the top 20. I mean, there were a bunch of people in the top 20 that seemed to have a bit of a nightmare.
Yeah, quite a few. Namely, not to name any names, Michael O'Donnell. So my doubles partner had quite a shambolic race as well. He did beat me by about 15 seconds, but I was racing next to him for pretty much the entire race. Few other names as well.
So you were both supposed to do about 5 minutes better than you did, and you both did almost right up to the end. You were basically on the same pace. There's been a lot of talk since then about the sleds. I know Mo from Hyrox was coming out and said that the sleds weren't looked after in equal ways. So everyone's really so they're really happy with the turf. So again, I don't want to get into the weeds on this straight off the bat. But if you're interested in Hyrox, you would have heard something about the sled situation. They've standardized the turf, so hopefully everyone's going to be running on the same things wherever in the world they compete. And Hyrox have basically said, our mistake in the world, which is what slowed down some lanes and sped up other lanes, is that is the sleds are in a different state of repair or maintenance. And they're just going to need to do a better job at that. And they said they will. So hopefully that will be fine. But I thought it was interesting just thinking about your experience, that even before the sleds happened, you said the training had gone really well, but you were partway through the ski erg, and I think you said you were pulling 148s when you should have been pulling 146s or something, and you were just, hang on a second, something's off. Is that right?
Yeah. So basically, what we mean when we say pulling a certain number on the ski erg, there's something called a split, which means per 500 meters. So when you ski, one of the settings on the ski erg screen will say 146 or 234 per slash 500 meters. That's telling you how quickly you are going. So you are skiing 500
Mine
meters.
always says two something, so I don't know what you're talking about. There.
So some of you might say two, might say three, whatever it is. That's going to be per 500 meters. That's going to be how quickly you are skiing or rowing 500 meters. For me, race pace, the previous 3 pro races that I'd done, I would be holding 146s for the first station without any problem, intentionally holding myself back from going quicker, so going to 142, 143. But this race, I was struggling to hold on to 148, so I was going at a much slower pace with a much higher output, with trying a lot harder. I was going a lot slower, so immediately I knew from the first station out of 8 that something was going wrong. It wasn't my day. That's essentially what I felt like on the skier. It wasn't good from that point.
So you were doing okay, but you were never going to be quite right because something unspecified was off. But I said, I think there were a bunch of people in the same boat. There were some people suffering on the sleds. I saw one guy that got a bad sled lane, and if you're huge like you, then you can mitigate it, but you're going to be kind of wasted.
He means huge for Hyrox athletes. Do not picture me as some sort of massive power lifter. In comparison to some of the best Hyrox athletes, I am on the bigger side.
Well, you have shrunk since you stopped doing CrossFit and started doing Hyrox.
Thanks.
You've you're half the man you used to be. No, but it's true, isn't it? That you have to go, okay, which muscles do I need to be big and which muscles don't I? And if you don't need a particular muscle to be huge, then it's just wasted weight, right?
Unfortunately, I've been gifted with some of the best chest genetics in the world, which have proven to be
welcome.
the least functional and least
complain about it.
Upper body muscles when it comes to almost anything, really. So
really don't need the complaints on that one.
My bench press has dropped about 20 kg, 15 kg since starting. But so the sleds were.
So just to back up slightly, so your bench has dropped 20 kg since you were doing what? What was your focus in training when your bench was so much better than it is now?
So what I did before Hyrox and when I was rowing would be general bodybuilding training, I guess you'd call it. There wasn't any intention behind it. It was just I want to look good, I want to feel strong while staying lean. So it was more general, I'd say bodybuilder style training. Yeah. Right. So a lot of hypertrophy, a lot of high volume, a lot of strength mixed in with each other.
A lot of hyper what?
Hypertrophy. So it basically just means muscle gain. So hypertrophy, you'd need to do higher sets with a lighter weight. It just essentially means muscle growth.
Okay.
Yeah.
So back to the Hyrox Worlds then. That didn't go quite according to plan for you or a bunch of other people, including, as I was mentioning, basically a couple of smaller guys who also had a really rough sled who could barely move the thing, which is ridiculous because these are some of the best guys in the world and they were just having a nightmare on it. So I think a lot of people are justifiably getting mulligans on what happened there, but hopefully that'll be sorted out for the next season. And one thing I will say is Hyrox generally have been saying, we actually didn't do that bit like we wanted to or meant to, and we'll make sure that doesn't happen again. So they have been pretty responsive.
Yeah, which is good. They put out an official statement on it pretty quickly after videos and conspiracy, which turned into evidence, went around. So I think that was good from them.
Yeah. So moving on from that, like I said, you had an off season, which I think consisted of 2 visits to Cheesecake Factory. That was your off season.
And then
back on the horse.
Factory, and about 12,000 calories between them. It was successful.
Yeah, that was quite the off season, and then came back to. At the time, I think you were training for not very much, but then quickly you jumped into a couple of other things. So I think Strive was the first thing. So
Strive.
So those who don't know, I mean, the UK at the moment seems to be the kind of epicenter of hybrid fitness events. So I'm regularly seeing a completely new sport or event cropping up, which seems to be, most of them are basically variations of Hyrox. I mean, Hyrox isn't the first thing in the space, but they're pretty similar, like running elements and then stations or tests or whatever involving weights that people do. And the first one you had, which I think is Strive a UK only thing? Or do they do that globally?
As far as I'm aware, they get athletes in from all over the place. It's only in the UK.
So what is Strive?
I'm not going to go into exactly what the events were because I can't remember exactly because they were quite long. But Strive is an event hosted by Forder's Gym in Birmingham.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not something that I don't believe anyone can turn up and show up. I think there are select athletes that are invited to it, and I think those athletes can then make up a team in which, in our case, which was 6, you had teams of 6, you had male teams, female teams, mixed teams, and you'd compete in, I think, 3 events, and if you were in the top X amount of those 3 events, you go into the final, which is the 4th event, and each event, like you said, was very hybrid focused. There was a lot of running, a lot of ergs, a lot of ergs, meaning ski, row, bike on the Concept 2 machines, and some heavy weight as well. So a lot of sandbags are involved, a lot of lunging, burpees, stuff that hurts, basically, for the day.
That doesn't narrow it down very much. Stuff that hurts when working out is everything. Yeah. Okay. So that was just a team event, right?
Yeah, no solo. That was a team of 6 that I did with me, 4 dudes I'd never met before, which turned out to be really, really cool guys, and my running coach, Ash.
Ash Harrell. Cool. Shout out to Ash. And then 3 weeks ago, you did metrics. What, again, broadly speaking, what is metrics?
Very specifically speaking, it's quite quick actually. It's a 10-minute ski, 4-minute rest, 10 minutes lateral burpees over a line, 4 minutes rest, 10 minutes row, 4 minutes rest, 10 minutes bike, 4 minutes rest, 10 minutes shuttle sprints, 4 minutes rest. And this time I did it doubles format. So you go, I go. So you could just accumulate basically as much distance as the pair of you can within that 10-minute block.
And how was that?
Fun. Really, really fun. The atmosphere is more clubby. So there are like strobe lights. There's loud music. Basically Hyrox, but with a different vibe of music and more intense lighting. It was good. The burpees we did better than we thought. We got 220 reps, I think, in 10 minutes between us, which was cool. Ski erg, we paced it well. Row, the transitions could have been better, but it was really good. I did it with actually someone that I competed with in Strive called Sam. Sam did really well. We ended up coming 5th overall, I believe, after the score recalculation because they didn't, for some reason, our bike score didn't record, so I had to speak to them about that. Anyway, we came 5th overall, and yeah, that was really, really good. I've got another competition coming up, actually, which we'll speak more about later, but that's on the 28th of next month with Tony. So I'm looking forward to that, Tony Ravel.
Metrics, that's a new entrant in the space, is it?
Relatively speaking, I believe. Yeah. I think the first event, I did a metrics event earlier, was it last year in London, which I believe was either their first or second event. So it's 2 years at most in terms of...
Again, that's very not individual focused, right? That's again, it's...
Yeah. So I competed first. I did solos. They came out, it was originally an exclusively doubles event, but then they released solo tickets. And since I've done team sports my whole life, I've been into this hybrid sort of space looking to do a bunch of solo work. So I went in solos, did solos, came 3rd overall. And then since then, I think they've removed the solo option. So now it's only doubles.
Okay. So Hyrox seems to me to be very individual and doubles orientated. Relays is a new thing, but I don't know. How popular do you think solo is in Hyrox compared to doubles for Hyrox? Are they equally weighting, do you think, in terms of numbers of people doing it?
I think for general population, I think doubles is more popular because the gym that I work at, all the members there, I've spoken to, let's say, 20 ballpark. One I think of whom have done a solos. So everyone who I think newly gets into it is sort of loves the camaraderie of the doubles and working together and sharing the workload with someone. I think as you get higher up the sort of ability level in terms of people who sort of train for this full time or do it more seriously, those are typically when you see the ratio lean more into solos. But doubles hasn't been around in terms of the elite side of things for this. The World Championships that just went was the first time that they had Elite 15 that we went through in doubles. So I think it will become more popular, but for now, I think the higher up the ability ladder you go, the more popular solos gets. But that's just
so did I do it wrong by making my Hyrox debut in singles? Should I have gone for doubles first?
No. So a lot of the people that I've spoken to have said they're annoyed that they did doubles first because they think solos will be so much harder. And I did solos first, and I think I prefer it that way round because I believe solos, I think it's to do with your training background, whatever you're used to. I think because of your marathon background, I think solos will be better suited to you. And I think it's better that you did solos first, whereas I think someone whose background is something like football or something that's very stop-start would be better with doubles, because with solos, it's basically just a continuous race. You don't
football,
stop.
When you talk about football, is my background.
Well, I mean more of your sort of recent background in terms of
Oh, okay,
marathon.
I haven't played football for 20
Yeah,
years, but
yeah. So I think
distant past background maybe.
distance
Which
and
reminds me,
fast.
I saw someone being interviewed about relays, and she almost can't stand relays. So the thing with Hyrox singles is you do all the runs and all the stations. Hyrox doubles, you do all the runs, and then you and your partner split the stations between you, right? So you don't do all of any station. You might split that up in 2, 3, or even 4 chunks, right, per station. Whereas relay, either mixed or single sex, you each do 2 runs and you each do 2 stations. So you only do a quarter of the event, right? But what
Yeah,
she didn't like about it, and why maybe it's not great for old people like me, is if you're only going to do 2 things, you have to absolutely blister it. So what she was saying, and I relate to, is if you're only going to do 2K, it better be a good 2K. You better be absolutely caning it on the runs, and then whatever station you do, it's like complete send it, just complete send it, whatever the station is. Which, if you're older and your joints and your muscles are considering whether to stay attached to each other, is a bit more iffy.
yeah. So with in terms of injury, typically the higher the intensity, the higher the risk.
Right.
So I understand
That's
what
what
she
I'm afraid
means.
of.
Yeah, yeah. But for example, we did it where it was me, my dad, my friend Zaid, and my
And my
grandfather
dad,
did it, who is 60, 70,
he's 74 when he did it. He was 74 when he
74. He
did
was
it. Yeah.
74 when he did it.
Yeah.
If you manage the intensity but still push yourself, I think a relay is a great idea. I mean, yes, of course, with anything, if you go really hard, it can injure you. But I think at the end of the day, Hyrox is an event that's meant to be inclusive. So all the
Right.
stations, for example, are very safe when you compare it to stuff like CrossFit or even football.
Everything
It's very
everything's
linear.
safer than CrossFit. Everything's safer
Yeah,
than CrossFit. I was absolutely
yeah.
loving it. You got me into it. I was absolutely loving it. The first time I had a race, I got overexcited, lifted up a 140-pound bag, and that was that for a year. But anyway,
Try
we
to,
won't go.
but
We
yeah.
won't. No, I did. I did. I lifted it up. I ran 30 yards, but as I was lifting it up, I'm like, oh, anyway, bad year off, couldn't do anything, and now I'm doing this, which is a lot more inclusive. Which sounds like a rude word when you're talking about fitness. I think it's what people accuse Hyrox of being rather than complimenting it. But I think that's one of the reasons it's so great and one of the reasons it's so popular, because if you're not going to be inclusive with your events, then you're going to be niche, which is fine too.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was your off season that hasn't really been an off season. How's your workouts been this week? One of the segments we're having, AWW or whatever, a week in workouts, where Jude and I will talk about what we've been doing this week, which for me won't take very long. So maybe I'll go first and get it over with
Yes.
quicker.
Go first.
So I'm still trying to end my off season. So the peak
And
of my
the good thing about us doing sort of this awe is that it will keep you accountable as well. Because you don't want to come on here next week and have been like, I'm not injured, but I've also gone on 2 walks. So it's going to a good way to keep you accountable, because I know that you need something to keep yourself focused. And yes, we've got
That's a
Stockholm book that
controversial
we'll go
take, Jude.
into,
That's a
but
controversial
it will
take.
also keep him accountable, which is good. So
I
any
I don't need
comments,
that.
if we have a week where he feels like when he's not done enough, comments, let him know.
I don't need accountability. I'm superbly self-disciplined. I just peaked for the Worlds. Now, not to compete at the Worlds, obviously, but I peaked in order to watch the Worlds. And
He did a good job of watching. He did.
thank you. I appreciate that. And the last couple of months has really been recovery, I think, from that emotionally.
Recovery. That is important. Recovery is important.
Emotionally and physically.
Yeah.
I think for me, recovery consists largely of eating. And
That is
I
one of the
think-
components of recovery is fuel.
Exactly. So I'm trying to emerge from my recovery into my next training block, because I definitely don't want this person named, because that's more accountability than I need in public right now. But I'm hoping to do a doubles early next year with someone, a mixed doubles, and I'm lined up to do a Hyrox singles in December. I'm dog walking, and I did an 11-mile run a couple of weeks ago, which seems like a lot after not doing very much, but I was slow like molasses, but I got round. That was 11 miles. And then my big thing about trying to shift a bit of excess weight, what I'm absolutely loving, is Zwift. Now, not the Zwift like programmed workouts, but a Zwift race, because you can be terrible like me, but there are other terrible people. There are other normal good people like me. And so I was busting a gut trying to make 35th out of 50 rather than 36th. And the kind of zones I get into, the amount of time I spend in those zones is ridiculous. And the only reason is I'm competing. So Zwift is great because I compete every time I do it, and I feel like I'm burning a lot of calories. So I did that run, and I've done some Zwift, and I'm just trying to get running again. Back on the weights.
What? Because I've never done it.
Zwift being a cycling app. I've got an indoor bike here, and the Zwift app, some of the cycling apps, you just do these kind of programmed video workouts, but the Zwift app, you jump on there with a bunch of other people and you race. There'll be dozens of races every day that people can organize.
Really good for competitive people who want to sort of push intensity without a huge risk of injury, I think.
Exactly. And in my case, I can burn 800 calories in a relatively short amount of time compared to what it would take, and with no impact. So running 800 calories is going to burn me out for a couple of days joints wise. So I really enjoy that aspect of it. So my weekend workouts was just moving a lot more than I have been, and I've been traveling a lot this week. So I'm just trying to move a lot and eat less. Yeah. What about you? Because you've been actually working out.
Yeah, for me this week, as well as a lot recently, has been a lot of zone 2 work. So just meaning low intensity, keeping my heart rate at around anything from 120 to 135 with longer sustained efforts. So for example, Monday, my zone 2 workout was 60-minute run, followed by 30-minute ski erg, 30-minute row, and then 15 minutes on each of those things again. So it was 3 hours in total, and then just continuously keeping myself moving in that sort of zone 2 space, which can be very boring. But for me, I'm still, in terms of newness to the zone 2 training, relatively new. I've only been consistently doing it now for Hyrox for about a year. So there's time for me to get tired of it. But for now, I put on a podcast, or I listen to music, or I put on a show, and I really actually don't mind 3 hours of doing that, which sounds a bit concerning, but I don't.
And when you put on a podcast, what language is it in?
Sometimes in Spanish. So I'm not obviously Spanish, but I took it for GCSE and A-level, and have subsequently learnt it and become
pretty fluent
since then through podcasts and stuff like that. So yeah, either I'll listen to Spanish podcasts. I listen to at least half an hour every day to keep hearing it. But also recently I've been into a lot of Hyrox podcasts, namely Rock's Life, and then there's one with Anthony Pericini and James Kelly, who are who's a very good athlete in the space and a very good coach, and more like that.
Very good in all fairness, being a wild understatement about both of them, right?
Yes, the most successful Hyrox coach in the world, and arguably the most consistent.
And James Kelly, as I recall, missed the Hyrox world record by a second last year. Just didn't have the worlds that he wanted.
I think it was 0.7 of a second. Yeah,
right.
He missed it in Glasgow.
So a good guy to listen to. He knows what he's doing, and he's got his own podcast as well.
Yeah, it's actually really informative. Mainly his coach, who knows a lot about a lot, really. But yeah, so a lot of zone 2 work, some Hyrox specific work. So I'll do a Hyrox specific session maybe twice a week. I did that twice last week. And a lot of ergs. So ergs are a great way, so the row, the ski, or the bike are a great way to get a lot of volume in, so a lot of training minutes and a lot of threshold work. So I've been doing a lot of running thresholds, so 6 rounds of 5 minutes at threshold pace. Again, threshold is a massive topic in Hyrox, which we'll get into deeper later, but it is essentially your zone 4. So there's like 5 heart rate zones, 1 being the least intense, 5 being the most intense. Threshold will typically for Hyrox have you around zone 4. Meaning you should essentially finish a workout feeling, wow, that was tough, but it shouldn't be so hard that you should finish, that before you start, you really dread it. So it's not something that should kill you off or anything like that. It's just...
Hang on. So in the world of Jude's head, unless you're going to finish in zone 4, you shouldn't be dreading any workout?
No.
Am I not allowed to dread a zone 2 workout? Is that what you're telling me?
You can dread a zone 2 workout, but
I dread the heck out of zone 2 workouts.
Yeah.
I
feel that would be more because of the volume than because of the intensity.
There we go. Okay, so if you don't think it's going to kill you, it's zone 4 or less.
Yeah. So
zone 5, right? So zone 5 being the kind of thing you can sustain for how long?
Not very long.
Okay.
Some people are theoretically in zone 5 for an entire half marathon which, I mean, again,
That's
if you
hard to
want to
imagine.
get a lot more nerdy into the topic, then there's probably a bit of faulty hardware there in terms of the gear
Yeah.
that they're using.
Yeah, we can
So
get
it's
we can
usually,
get into that another time.
yeah,
Definitely.
it's
Yeah. Yeah.
usually something you'd hold for like a CrossFit workout for 5 minutes, really. You'd be consistently in zone 5, 10 minutes,
Right.
something very short anyway. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Which you're not often in a Hyrox, so that's something I
No.
don't do quite as often.
Or if you are, you're doing it wrong because it's too long
Yeah.
to camp
Yeah.
out in zone 5.
Yeah.
And
You shouldn't be doing
there's
anything
all kinds
for-
of lactic questions in there that we won't go into right now,
Yeah.
or some
Yeah.
kind of stuff that gets released into your bloodstream that shouldn't be there and messes you up for the next 10 minutes and stuff like that. But anyway,
Yeah, it
so
doesn't
that's
feel great.
so that's the last week in workouts. Now for next week, one of the things that we're going to be doing hopefully every week is what we're going to call the WOW, which is a workout of the week, which is where Jude comes
Well,
up with
I thought of a really fluid sort of segue into that was speaking of lactate, actually. With the
okay.
WOW.
So if I back up slightly
We missed
and
it.
say
Yeah, we missed
say, and there's the whole issue of what happens with lactate and how that messes you up if you get it wrong. Speaking of
Yeah.
lactate thresholds, Jude,
There we
what's
go.
happening with the
Smooth.
workout of the week? Thank you, appreciate it.
It's called acid bath. Acid
Sorry, it's called
referring to
it's called what?
acid bath.
Acid bath. That's
Yeah.
fantastic. I
Sounds
can't wait.
safe.
Tell me
Yeah.
more. Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah. So acid, obviously referring to the lactic acid that will inevitably be screaming
Obviously.
inside of your legs. It's a 500-meter ski, 500-meter row, 1,000-meter bike for time. Essentially,
Hold up,
just the
hold up.
quickest you can.
And repeat that slowly.
500-meter ski,
500-meter ski.
500-meter row,
Yeah.
1,000-meter bike for time, including transitions.
Transitions meaning getting off one and onto the
Getting
other.
from yeah. So in my gym when I did it, I had it set up ski, bike, row, literally right next to each other, so to keep the transition.
This
time.
is very much a if you have access to a gym kind of workout rather than a home thing.
Yeah,
Most people
yeah,
don't
and
have
they'd
all those
all
three
they
things.
all realistically have to be on a C2.
Concept 2. Okay.
Yeah.
So okay, in order to get the Jude ranking, you have to be on Concept 2. But if you don't need the Jude ranking, you can
Yes.
do it on any
or
ski and
any
anywhere on any
other
bike.
sort of official ranking.
Right.
That is, yeah,
Okay. So 500 meters of each of those things, and
1,000 on the bike.
1,000 on the bike. Sorry. So what are you going for, and what should I go for? Because this
Well-
you're not giving me a scaled version, are you? You just you're
No.
making me do the same thing.
Yeah, so sometimes with these wows or these workouts of the week, there'll be a scaled version where the weight will come down or the rounds will go down
Right.
or the volume will go down in some respect.
Right.
But this one, because it's so short and because there's no loading, it's just on the machines. There's no scaled version, so it's just for time. I actually already did the workout, so spoiler, I did
Doesn't
it.
count. Doesn't count. Doesn't count. It wasn't this week. Doesn't count.
I have PTSD from that workout. I'm not doing it again for a very
Oh.
long time.
Oh, hang on. So you want us doing a workout that you have PTSD
Yeah.
from? Okay, not that we're going to
Yes,
make light of
P-
that.
yeah.
But anyway,
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
you did it. You did it in how long?
4:59.6.
Okay, so you broke
Yeah.
the 5-minute barrier on acid bath in your case,
Yeah.
and acid bath in my case.
Yeah.
And so you did 5 minutes. Sorry, 5 minutes. What am I aiming for?
I
51
had a
years
good
old,
concept. So-
15 pounds overweight. Been doing a lot of
Well,
walking, not
you
much else.
or a 51-year-old, someone like trained like you and aged like you. Are you saying?
I don't know how have I aged, Jude. Tell me how I've aged. Poorly.
Well, assuming
Ahead of
someone
schedule?
is a relatively fit 51-year-old
is that what you're saying I am, or you're saying I should be?
in Hyrox season,
Don't answer
you
that.
are.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you for that
Yeah.
very diplomatic answer. Okay, so if a slightly fitter version of me should be doing it in what?
Yeah. Well, let's assume you would therefore be holding about 2 minutes on the 2-minute split, 2 minutes per 500 meters on the all three. I'd say, to be honest, anything between 2 and 2:05, meaning 2:46 plus transitions. Anything under 6:30, I think,
I've
would
got to do
be
this
sort of a good
in
goal to
under
aim
6.
for.
So an averagely fit 51-year-old should be aiming for sub 6:30. If you're much younger and much fitter, try and beat Jude's time of 4:59.6.
Yeah.
And anyone who can provide evidence of that will obviously get a shout out next episode, because
Yeah.
that's a slightly ridiculous time. But yeah, feel free to beat 4:59.6, and then you won't know what my time is in advance. So I'm just going to have to find somewhere with all that equipment in one space and see what I can do. Okay,
Have fun.
cool. Thank you. Appreciate that very much. So we won't be doing nutrition this week. Next week we'll do one of an ongoing series of recipes that hopefully fairly straightforward to make. We're not going to do any gear reviews this week, but just to mention a couple of things. I don't know if other people's Insta feeds are full of this, but a Velo company that as I understand it, have taken some ex-Nike folks. You stick a little device in the sole of the shoe and it monitors what you're doing, so it can assess you in ways more than any other shoe can. And it will
I've not even heard of that before.
Not even heard of that. No,
it's for that. No.
Well, I want to get a hold of a pair of these things and see if they make any sense. They're shipping next spring though, so that won't be for a while, but I definitely want to get a hold of one of them. But one thing that we can both report back on sooner than that, and you've been using it for a while, is obviously a lot of folks will have Apple Watches and are using that to measure their zones that you made reference to, their heart rate, just trying to train by heart rate, which is a relatively new thing, especially for running, is to try and, rather than time or distance or speed, certainly rather than speed, is say I'll keep my heart rate within, between, as you say, between in zone 2 or whatever it is, to try and work out whether it's worth having a heart rate monitor. I see increasing amounts of people like you competing at events with these chest straps on. So obviously there's got to be some advantage to it. Yeah. Anyone who's serious, right?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, good. So I'm not serious. That's understood. Fair enough.
Well,
okay.
I got you one.
You did get me one, and I've started using it.
Get you one.
I started using
so
it.
That means
and
you are
gave
serious.
Oh, crumbs. Okay. I'm extremely serious. I'm extremely serious. Yes, I'm extremely serious. Let's leave it at that. Okay, good. So I think that about wraps it up. The one thing I want to conclude with is our quote of the week. We're going to try and have one every week.
Well, I don't know this one.
Well, this I like this one. This isn't a daft one. This is quite a cool one. So Oledsandr Usyk, who is one of the best boxers ever, I think it's safe to say at this point, and keeps beating everyone who thinks that he's not good enough or not
by the way,
big enough.
His dance videos.
You love him because his dance videos. That's fantastic.
He's hilarious.
He's the best boxer in the world, and you love his dance videos.
Yeah.
Show some respect.
And he's all right on his feet.
Okay. So in his post-fight interview a number of weeks ago now, after beating Daniel Dubois, Usyk was asked how, at the age of 38, which is no kind of age at all, he had the motivation to keep fighting. Usyk said, "I don't have motivation. I have discipline. Motivation is temporary. Today you have it. Tomorrow you wake up early and you don't have it. When I wake up early morning for training, I never have motivation. I only have discipline. Only amateur sportsmen need motivation. Motivation is good, but discipline is better." Would you make of that quote, Jude?
I really like that one, especially for people who might not immediately click with training or something like that. If someone has a desire to be really good at something or wants to lose a load of weight and the process seems daunting or something like that, I think, the process of losing weight is tedious. It sucks. It's really hard, mentally challenging. But I think, you lost a load of weight. I think we should go into that one episode about how much you lost and how you did it. But yeah, I think that's really good because, discipline, no matter how much the process sucks or anything like that, I think that's something that will keep you moving when, there's no sort of, when the light at the end of the tunnel seems really far away. I think that's a great way to sort of look at it.
And highlights the problem of what most of us, me included, tend to live on, is trying to find motivation. So you're constantly looking for the thing that's going to make you want to get up and do the early morning run or the late afternoon weight session or whatever it is. And it's a lot easier said than done, but he's got his goal in mind and he's made a conscious decision to do something. And so he's almost cut feelings out of it, right? He's made the assessments, he's made his long-term commitment. He's married to his job. It says, okay, tomorrow morning I'm going to do this 3-hour workout. And it doesn't matter whether I particularly want to do it in the morning, it's what I do, which is a lot how you look. So I think you have plenty of motivation, but you also have this thing that just says, well, this is the thing that I do, and I'm going to do it no matter what. Yeah. So you don't actually need to want to do it. I think a lot of my problem is I feel like I need to want to do it. So I almost wake up and say, oh, I hope I want to work out today, because then I'll work out, which is falling foul of what Usyk said. I think that makes me the amateur sportsman.
For me, in a niche way, my version would be getting into Hyrox. I hated running, and I also hated rowing because I just did 9 months of high intense training of it. But I think for me, the discipline was not wanting to do either of those forms of training, and yet knowing I had to incorporate both of them quite regularly if I want to achieve my goal of becoming the best in the world. So I think for me, those two things, with running being 50 to 55% of the race and rowing being an important way to sort of improve in that area, that I think, for me, it was knowing that I have to incorporate that a lot more than I wanted to into my training.
Okay, so I think it's safe to say our aspirations are slightly different, because you just dropped there that you want to be the best in the world, whereas I'm going to let you do that, and I won't try and keep up your welcome. So thank you, everyone, for joining us on our inaugural episode. Please like and share, and we look forward to seeing you again next week. Thank you, Jude. Thank you, everyone. Goodbye.